Breaking news, we have a trade. It's been a crazy morning around the NBA. Donnie and I will be live a little later this afternoon to break down all of the latest buzz and everything else going on around the league. But we do have some breaking trade news here between the Hornets and the Jazz. And frankly, it's a little bit of a head scratcher. I think the Hornets just fleeced the Utah Jazz. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel and turn on those notifications as well. Let's take a look at this deal. The Utah Jazz, according to Shams Charania, are trading Colin Sexton and a 2031 second-round pick to the Charlotte Hornets for Jusuf Nurkic. Sources tell ESPN. The Hornets acquire a competitive, tough-minded guard in Sexton for their backcourt, while Utah gets front-court depth in Nurkic, whom the Jazz have liked. Okay, so right there, yeah, the Jazz have liked Nurkic. We can argue whether or not they should like Nurkic, but the Jazz have liked them. He's a center. Centers are more in demand in the NBA trade market than we've seen in recent years. But nonetheless, still, that's the solid value that the Jazz are giving up here. It's a future second-round pick. It's a 2030 second-rounder they're giving up, which isn't nothing. It's not the most. It's not a huge deal. It's not a first-round pick or anything like that. And the Jazz have plenty of other picks. But still a little bit of surprise that it was Utah attaching a pick here in this deal. In fact, I broke this down on X, and I was a bit surprised here that if you look at the three things that you typically look for in a trade, all of them went in the favor of the Charlotte Hornets in this deal. In my opinion, Colin Sexton is a better player than Jusuf Nurkic, so the Hornets got the better player. They also got a second-round pick, so they got the draft capital, and they saved money on the deal. They saved money on the deal too. Look at this. Jusuf Nurkic, let's call it $4 million under contract. It's an expiring deal. Colin Sexton, $18.9 million. Let's call it $19 million. So we're not talking about a ton of money by NBA standard, but nonetheless, the Charlotte Hornets are going to pay less for the better player and get draft capital for doing it. And let's not forget, Colin Sexton is younger as well. He's 27 years old. And Nurkic is 31. So all in all, I think this is a good bit of work for the Charlotte Hornets. Let's also consider here that this might inform us of some of the other decisions that the Hornets are going to make. So, for example, Mark Stein, just minutes before the reported trade went out, Mark Stein reported that the Charlotte Hornets plan to make a run at Chris Paul, but have conceded that they're not going to get him. They're going to be pursuing veteran ball handlers to back up LaMelo Ball, like they might be a landing spot for Ty Jerome. Well, most likely that's out the window now. The Hornets will not be a landing spot for Ty Jerome anymore, almost certainly, because now they're getting Colin Sexton. And frankly, if you're looking for a backup ball handler, you could do a lot worse than Colin Sexton. I think this guy does not get enough credit for what he's done in the NBA. People look at him as just a gunner, but his efficiency numbers show you that he is not. He's actually a very, very effective guard. Defensively, are there concerns? Absolutely. But you look at the consistency the last couple of years in Utah, 18-point per game scorer, both seasons. He can get you some assists there, moving the basketball, 4.9 assists season before last, 4.2 last season, 41% from three last season for the Jazz. Think about that, 41% from three on a bad team. On a bad team that's going to struggle to create good looks. Now, I'm not saying the Hornets are going to be a good team. I'm more saying that Colin Sexton is a hyper-efficient player that should not be put in the same category as the high-volume gunners that he tends to get associated with. In fact, his Jazz teammate, Jordan Clarkson, is a better representation of the kind of high-volume gunner style where he doesn't shoot a particularly high percentage, but he does put up numbers. That's not Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton can produce unlimited shots, and that's what's really impressive about him. His efficiency way up there, excellent free throw shooter, gets to the line plenty. I think this is a great get for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, they've got plenty of concerns elsewhere on the floor. For example, now with Jusuf Nurkic gone, they already traded Mark Williams. He's gone. They traded Nick Richards middle of last season. So now with the Hornets, you are really, really short at the center position, and have to imagine they're going to try to do some other things there. They're going to try to find some type of solution there. They've got Moussa Diabate. Maybe there's something there. They brought in Ryan Kalkbrenner in the NBA draft in the second round. So perhaps the Hornets can have some options to rely upon at that stage, but they still definitely need help in the middle. Now that Jusuf Nurkic, who they just traded for last year at the trade deadline, is back on his way out the door. For the Utah Jazz, I'll tell you what, I don't quite get it. Now, maybe there's another move coming for Utah. And perhaps that's it. And look, worst case scenario, if the value is going the wrong way, if the pick is going the wrong way, it's a distant future second rounder. It's not the end of the world for the Utah Jazz if they lose value on this trade, if they're getting a player they think is really going to help them. But the interesting thing with the Jazz is they've already got a guy like Walker Kessler in. Now, we are seeing more teams in the NBA focus on having multiple centers on their roster. So maybe that's what this is. Maybe for the Jazz, this is just about clearing the glut of guards that you've got and having a legitimate backup behind Walker Kessler. That could be it. I know there's a number of fans out there, especially Lakers fans, that are jumping to the conclusion that, oh, this means Walker Kessler's on the move. I wouldn't necessarily go that far. NBA teams, we're starting to see it now. They're focusing more and more on really locking down the center position. That means having not just one center, but multiple centers. Maybe it wasn't that way a few years ago, but now teams are really focusing on having quality depth at the center position, and this would put the Jazz a step towards having that with Walker Kessler and Yusuf Nurkic. They got plenty of size now at the 5, and so perhaps there's a little bit of value there, but still in a vacuum, Colin Sexton, I believe, is the better player than Yusuf Nurkic. He's the younger player. He is the cheaper player, not by a lot, but he is cheaper. And the Charlotte Hornets get, well, not a super valuable pick, a draft pick nonetheless coming their way. So like I said, I think the Hornets win this trade. If this is just about filling the backup center position for the Utah Jazz, and they look at it as the cost is a few $100,000 difference in salary and a distant second round pick, okay, at least they feel like they checked the box, and the center market is certainly not a very deep one right now, and it's a difficult one to navigate. We're seeing a number of teams that are struggling to land centers out there right now. So if that's all this is for the Utah Jazz, fine. I'm not going to be too upset with them for this, but I do think that value-wise and in every way, the Hornets managed to extract a little bit of extra value at every stop, and they got a guy who I really like a lot in Colin Sexton to add to this Hornets roster. So now the question becomes for the Utah Jazz, next steps are, what do you do with John Collins? What do you do with Jordan Clarkson? Can he move on from them? Both of them veterans on expiring contracts, especially Clarkson at 33 years old. I think they need to move him as quickly as possible. Probably should have already moved him. And same thing with John Collins as well, who picked up his $26.5 million player option. They need to move those guys and then see what they can do to build around their youth, especially now that Ace Bailey, he reported. Welcome to Utah. Ace, happy to see that. Glad that he reported, and we can kind of end that crisis. But now Utah can move forward. But they do have some moves here still to make. The Jazz do. And then when we're looking at the Hornets, it's now about what do you find at the center position? Can you go get somebody out there? I don't expect the Hornets to be a big-time title contender or anything like that. Obviously, I don't know if they even make the postseason, even in a diminished Eastern Conference. But they do have a pretty big hole now at the center position now that they've traded away both Yusuf Nurkic and Mark Williams this summer. I like the value that they've got, but they clearly have a move or two still to make here in order to fix that situation. So, like I said, Donnie and I are going to go live here on the Basketball Bulletin in just a little bit, and we'll break down everything else going on around free agency. We'll talk a little bit about Julius Randle's new deal. We'll talk about, I don't know, that LeBron guy and the puzzling statement that he made with his decision to pick up his player option. We'll talk about all the other things happening, the Chris Paul free agent market, what that's looking like, lots of stuff. So be on the lookout for that. I'll schedule that in just a bit, but it is a crazy time right now around the NBA. Free agency officially begins tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time. But let's face it, we all know free agency, it's already started, if you know what I'm saying. But everybody, I do appreciate all of you for being here. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, see you and stay safe.